Yeah, my hair's messy. I guess I should fix it. Like this. All right. Chapter 1. September 1942. Brooklyn, New York. Deep within me, a sense of dread buzzes and crackles. An electrical wire threatening to short. Oh, wow, that's good already. I'm trapped by the stage lights, the performance well in motion. I assure myself that Charles's behavior, subtle oddities throughout tonight's tricks, falls within reason. It was at his prodding, after all, that a top New York critic agreed to attend. As a faceless judge in the shadows, the lone man can render a verdict that could pack future shows or trigger a decline. Even so, what I detect from Charles differs from nerves. Only with disciplined effort do I resist rushing through the grand finale. I distribute a padlock to each of the volunteers. 2 airmen, a banker type, and a trio of sprightly ladies. With all the poise and undulating cadence of a showman's assistants, I encourage their inspection. My narration flows out, as programmed as a song on a player piano. On this stage alone, it's my 4th performance in 2 days. Stewing in a haze of cigarette smoke, aftershave, and floral perfume, the medium-sized theater could be any one of 100. The attendance is respectable at 2/3 full. Largely from the cheap seats of the balcony, periodic catcalls remain standard fare, with no help from my galling, if customary, outfit. Astoundingly, the sequined halter and mid-thigh skirt are rather modest for my role. Displayed on the prop table are 2 pairs of handcuffs and a set of minuscule keys. I'm retrieving them all when Charles reappears in the right wing of the stage to await my cue. He's traded his top hat and tails for the black bathing costume that hugs his lean build from shoulders to thighs. All in line with our usual act, save for the object in his grip. An axe. I bristle less from startle than confusion. A stagehand was supposed to brandish the tool, not Charles, and certainly not yet. For a show that blends illusion and danger, from the magical mending and vanishing of items to mind-reading and death-defying feats, there's purpose to every step, glance, and gesture. To timing above all, at the climax of the act, as fear arises over the escape artist's ability to elude his bonds, a harried display of the axe implies need for its imminent use, amplifying suspense. It's hardly to be used as, what, a parading of bravado? Still, we've performed together with such frequency over 3 years of touring that my speech hitches only slightly. Now that our committee of volunteers from the audience has keenly inspected the padlocks for authenticity, I pause, prompting nods from the lock-bearing group. Death-defying escapologist Charles Bouchard shall be sealed into the galvanized iron milk can, airtight and filled with water to its very brim. Grandly, I gesture towards the barrel-sized container just as Charles interjects. In fact, he reemerges prematurely with his faux French accent, turning the sea of heads. So superior are my abilities to those of Harry Houdini himself. I balk at even the most basic safeguards. The affront to my late idol, a legend for this very trick, irks me, but briefly. More pressingly, I struggle to decipher Charles's intentions as he strides past the volunteers to reach center stage. his slicked ebony hair tousled from his costume change. Observe, for instance, Zeus' emergency tool, which I have primed with a hacksaw. For what, you ask? Why to do Zeus? Against an edge of the milk can, he slams the axe handle once, twice, and breaks the handle in two. My chest tightens. Despite murmurs of surprise and delight, Charles slings the pieces aside with a hearty voila, barely missing my T-strap heels. Even the four-piece band, routinely dispassionate in the pit, gawks with interest. What is more, he proclaims, swooping towards me barefoot, one with supernatural gifts has no need for caution. Is it not so, Mademoiselle Voss? I'm still eyeing the can, finding no damage. Gratefully, when he snatches from me the tiny ring of keys, he jangles them high, pinky in the air, as if ringing a bell for tea service, before tossing them into his mouth and swallowing them whole. A ripple of gas, a mix of groans, another maddening, bewildering detour. Unless vitally called for, never stray from the act. Of the many rules I've taught him, this was the first, the most crucial. I dredge up a smile nonetheless, bright with victory red lips, ever accustomed to wearing a mask, as much on stage as off. And besides, I'm well aware the keys are unnecessary. The padlock's a ruse. That's funny. The neck of the can is, after all, rigged with an outer and inner wall. Telescoped upward, the lid detaches with secured locks intact. I just lost it. Oh, there it is. It's a deceit based on presumption. A twist on a story viewers convince themselves to be true. Just as experience tells them a book holds full sheeted pages and a shoe heel is built solidly through, to their minds, a milk can only opens one way. Mind you, Charles' ingesting of the keys is real. For escapologists, a trained resistance to gagging is required to handily swallow an item. Then, then reproduce it on cue. Compliments of a sword swallower. I learned a sword swallower. Oh, that's cute. I learned the rather unsavory skill while on breaks from my old sleight of hand axe. It was at the very dime museum where I first met Charles, back when his unruly black hair wasn't yet slicked with tonic. His average if pleasing face still free of smugness. When labeled a curiosity, he drew the upper crust of society to point and cringe. Who could have guessed he'd become my greatest illusion? Allures, the final touches. Charles holds out his wrist and regards me with a jerk of his chin. A sign to administer the handcuffs and resume my pattern. My patter, not pattern. Okay. And resume my patter. His granting of permission. Annoyance curls my fingers, interrupted by a heckling sailor. Hey, honey, I could think of some better ways to use those handcuffs. Yeah, 'cause Wolski, like to lock up your ugly ass, calls another. Pipe down, all you. We got ladies here. The exchange is typical nowadays, with an abundance of enlisted boys high on hormones and sips from their flasks, antsy for glory, half a world away. For people like me, the war could as easily be set in another universe. Ordinarily, I'd toss out a clever comeback. But distracted, I simply reassume control with a clearing of my throat. Somewhere in the room, a critic looks on. As you will see, I declare in a voice that, based on a rare press mention, outsizes my grateful ladylike frame. Both pairs of handcuffs, also diligently inspected by our committee, will be fastened to Monsieur Bouchard's wrists. More nods from the group. Back on script, I apply the cuffs, tempted to attach them overly tight. Evading my glare, Charles makes a display of being firmly bound. After I remove the milk can lid, he wriggles into the container with more sloshing than usual. The theater's stagehands, one burly, one bearded, join us with pre-filled buckets and quickly remedy the water displacement. I discovered long ago for help with shows and rehearsals in any theater, advance gratuity ensures a job done right. Or done at all. Once sealed, I continue, the milk can will be enclosed by a 3-walled cabinet. Its triangular shape allows no room for trickery, and most notably can be unlatched only from the inside. The stagehands are now fetching the roofless structure from just off stage. Upon a countdown of 5, I challenge each of you fine ladies and gentlemen to hold your breath along with Monsieur Bouchard, who shall be submerged in 5, 4. The audience joins in. Charles inhales and exhales in exaggerated preparation. On the collective utterance of 1, he plunges below the surface. My internal timer begins as I affix the cover, catching a whiff of his breath. Under the faint sweetness from his usual cherry Luden drops comes, I like those, comes a critic jumper scent. Once I know well from my past. Gin. God in heaven. The root of his behavior is finally clear. But the volunteers have descended on the can. They're securing padlocks to the latches, as I've instructed. The band launches into a peppy tune. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. As the stagehands heft the wooden cabinet into place, swiftly assembled, the tall but sturdy barrier obscures Charles from everyone's view, including mine. A surge of fear shoots through my veins. I manage to point the volunteers back to their seats where the audience has gone silent. Breaths held. In the front row, a pigtailed girl puffs her cheeks with all the verve of Dizzy Gillespie. 30 seconds. Beside the captain, I wait on my mark, hand on my hip, calm and confident. Already, Charles should be free of his cuffs. They're merely trick pairs, the norm for underwater acts. I deftly swapped out the real ones after the volunteers examined them. Though certain of this, I furtively confirmed their distinctive weighted feel in the lower pockets of my skirt. Among the many hidden compartments I've designed for our acts. 45 seconds. A good portion of the crowd yields to their lungs. A smattering of ladies. Smattering. That's a cool word. A smattering of ladies giggle at their own folly. Fellows tend to hold out longer, surely sneaking air through their noses while attempting to impress their dates or protect their pride. Likely both. All the while, though, through the strategically blaring music, I listen for the hints of the outer neck sliding from the can. That simple step is all the escape requires. A person could finagle it, deaf or blind. Drunk even. Not that Charles is. Yet, yes, he's become one to indulge, at times heavily these days. But after the show, never before. Until now. 1 minute. Heat pours from the stage lights in compounding waves. Sweat prickles my scalp. My updo. I could undo it. My updo, tightening against its pins. The last few holdouts in the auditorium are gasping for air. At any moment, a stagehand should emerge with an axe to boost anticipation, as if ready to bust through the cabinet and break off the padlocks. But that axe now lies in pieces. At least destroying the handle didn't damage the can, so far as I could tell. Oh, why didn't I stall for a closer look? 1 minute 30. Thoughts of another escape artist barge into my mind, Genesta. This is a cautionary tale to promote double and triple checking. The famed performer failed to notice a critical dent in his milk can from being dropped during setup, preventing the lid's upward slide. His fatal final act. It's for this reason I demanded Charles practice for months, stretching his lungs in baths up to 3 minutes, 3 seconds, by my pocket watch. And we use only a lid that reserves air at the very top. Granted, tonight his compromised state could make all those precautions worthless. 2 minutes. Hey Toots, the same heckling to Sailor. So much for your power super... hey. So much for your power... Pals... I can't say that! So much for your pals' superpowers, huh? His jeering this time is largely lost to others' worries, evident in faces and fidgets and murmurs. Their reactions, which I normally relish, feel like viruses invading the room. I train my gaze on the... what is going on with my mouth? I train my gaze on the cabinet hinges. Only recently did I agree to remove the outer latch. Charles's idea for heightened drama. But with one provision, an inch-wide gap at the corner would allow me a peek if needed. My yearning to do so swells, bridled by his own stipulation. Even if concerned, I wasn't to look until the 3-minute mark. We're not there yet. I know this. With every second, an impossibly slow tick. Charles's reasoning is technically sound. He's never once faltered escaping the can, and an overt gauging of progress would dilute the act, particularly in the mind of a critic. But then, so would a drowning. The decision is my call, and I'm making it. I move with a purposeful stride to the far corner of the cabinet, as if following a choreographed routine. With a few sharp tugs, I form a narrow opening and glimpse inside. The lid appears in place. Same for the padlocks, a sign of all going right, or horrendously wrong. My eyes strain for a fuller view. For any sight of Charles, but there's nothing. Scenarios skitter through my head of his fainting underwater, as even Houdini's skillful brother once did, or passing out from the booze, or having the keys lodged in his throat. Whatever the case, the trick is over. Charles, can you hear me? The musicians trample my voice, their notes like boot heels, squashing each syllable. I snap toward the pit. Stop! The song ends raggedly, giving way to dull thunks. Not from the musicians, but from Charles. Muffled by water, handcuffs are striking the can. The lid must be stuck. Suddenly, there's quiet, an audible ceasing of metal against metal. The absence of sound is smothering. I stave off panic, remembering the axe, what's left of it. Hold on, I'm coming. Heart hammering my ribs. I scramble to retrieve the head of the axe from the stage floor. I clutch its handle, a jagged stump, and thrust the blade through the cabinet gap, trying to break the latch. Failing. Pain shoots through my palm. Splintered wood tears at my skin. At the vision of him inside, trapped in darkness and starved for air, ancient memories creep from the caverns of my mind. Of tangled limbs and muffled cries, an endless procession of caskets in the snow. I block them out, seeking a solution. Whatever am I doing? The cabinet can be toppled. This is the means of backup that Charles claimed would never be required. Like the axe he destroyed, the keys he swallowed. Whatever am I doing? Oh, yeah. I drop the blade and start shoving the cabinet with both hands. The triangular structure slides and clunks against the can, refusing to tip. I scan the wings for the stage hands. Why aren't they there? Where did they go? I've forgotten the crowd. Patrons stare with hands over mouths, perplexed, questioning. Many are half risen from their seats, clutching the arm of a neighbor. Unblinkingly, eyes stare down from the balcony. Please help, I yelled. Anyone. Comprehension flashes. Frightful cries erupt. I push at the cabinet again fruitlessly as a blur of uniforms and suits scurry for the aisles. I search for a military nurse or medic's insignia, anticipating Charles's next need, but the strangers freeze. All of them turn to statues. Are they still deliberating, doubting if this is real? A fierce command gathers in my throat, ready to burst, when a noise sweeps through the room, a pattering like drizzle growing to a downpour. Clapping, people are applauding. No, stop, I think, as their grimaces morph into smiles, gasps reversing into sighs, and then I see it. A metallic glint swings me around. 2 sets of handcuffs hang from the crook of a finger. Charles. He made it out. Alive and safe. Panting with a look of exhaustion, he stands sopping, wet at the open cabinet. The milk can looms in the background, sealed with all 6 locks. Zealous hollers and whistles bloom. Many in the crowd pat their chests, calming their hearts, laughing from the thrill. Charles absorbs it all with grandeur, bidding mercy. I don't know French, so I'm not gonna try. His grin widens with his every bow. Still overcome, I command myself to breathe, to repel the memories stacked on my chest. Nudged by Charles, I stiffly join his side and catch sight of the child in front. Her face bears the light-headed shock of a near plummet from a cliff. Though equally dizzy, I seek to uphold the facade that nothing actually went astray. My sense of relief gains purchase until a pointed wink from Charles, appreciative, it seems. But not for me. Not even for the bombshell in the audience, as I've come to expect. The wink is for the right wing of the stage. More aptly, for the pair of stagehand who have conveniently reappeared from their boastful smirks of those in the know. Every obstacle of the act floats back through my mind. They join like patches of clouds, snips of a riddle, conjuring a whole, the axe and keys, the newly added latch, Charles's urgent pounding that halted at my calls. My attention cuts back to his face. There's arrogance in his eyes, underscored by his stance. No authentic trace of fear, nor true relief from a tragedy averted. Why would there be? All had gone according to plan, his plan, including my role as an unwitting pawn. This is interesting. Yeah, so I'm going to continue on doing, so this is a book called The Ways We Hide. My daughter and I were at Walmart, and she asked me to pick one, and the title just reached out to me, and so I grabbed it. And, which is interesting, because I was just listening to something about chess and the different archetypes. Yeah, that's what it is. Archetypes in the world. And then the last word was an unwitting pawn. So it's kind of interesting. All the synchronicities, right? Anyhow, I worked out today. I got a, this girl locally had a elliptical machine, and so that I could start regularly working out. And yeah, I don't know, sometimes I read a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I never really know where messages are going to come from, you know. And I'm going to continue making these little videos here and there randomly as I'm guided to. It's funny because it's like, you know, if anybody really wanted to try and figure me out, good job, because it's really just like, I just go with the guidance that I receive. I mean, I think that I'm going to be going somewhere, and the next thing I know, I'm taking a right turn and then a left turn, and not even listening to the GPS that's on my phone, and then but yet even when I'm late, I'm always on time kind of thing. Which, yeah, so, I don't know. It's pretty magical. All I know is that God's in control. And, I'm protected and loved. And I'm going to go eat breakfast somewhere. And, possibly do some grocery shopping. I hope everybody has a beautiful day. It is, August 24th, 2025.